The Photoshop 3D features are getting better and better over time, but it's still not the best software for 3D modeling because it has limitations. And the interface can look a little intimidating, especially if you are working with 3D for the first time. But I'm here to introduce you to the interface, give you a little introduction, and show you how to use the essential tools if you're not familiar with. So let's start by selecting the rectangle tool and draw a simple square. And then I'll choose any other color than white so I can see a little bit better. Make sure to select the Move tool. That is very important in order for the toolbar on the top to show up. And now we need to convert this shape to a 3D object. And to do that, right click on the layer and select New 3D Extrusion from the selected layer. And Photoshop will ask you if you want to switch to the 3D interface, and I'll click yes. Now the first thing I want you to look at is up here at the options bar. These are the tools that you will be using all the time to control the scene view and move objects when working with 3D. The first one is the Orbit the 3D camera tool, and this one will allow you to orbit around your 3D object and give you a 360-degree view. Next is the Roll the 3D camera tool, and this one will allow you to rotate the view. The next one is the Pan the camera tool, and it will allow you to pan the camera view up and down and left and right. The next tool is the Slide the camera tool, and this time the camera will be rotating and sliding in and out. And the last one is the Zoom the camera tool, and this one is for zooming the camera in and out. And one important thing to remember is that these tools will show up and function only if you select the Move tool. And if I select, for example, the Hand tool, now I see the options of the tool that I selected, and also the mesh has disappeared. And by the way, if you don't see the mesh grid, even if the Move tool is selected, it is probably hidden, and you can toggle its visibility by clicking on Ctrl or Command H. Alright, so now that you know how these tools work, it is also very important to know that their response and reaction is dependent on what element you select right here in the 3D panel. For example, if I click on the rectangle element and choose the Orbit the 3D camera tool, you can see now that only the cube is moving because we selected the rectangle element, and the same goes for all the other tools. They will respond differently and dependent on what element you select in the 3D panel. I hope this makes sense to you. This is very important to understand to avoid confusion and frustration when you are working with 3D for the first time. You can also use the keyboard shortcut Shift V to cycle between the tools. That way you can work faster. And if you don't like cycling between the tools, this bottom left corner will come in handy, because from here you can orbit, pan and dolly the camera view regardless of what is selected in the 3D panel. If you want to reset the view, you can go to the Properties panel and click on the Coordinates tab, and then click Reset Coordinates, and move to Playground, then click on the default camera in the 3D panel to reset the view. Let's now show you how to control the actual 3D layer. If you click on the rectangle in the 3D panel and zoom in, you can see the on-screen manipulator, which has 3 control points to manipulate the 3D layer in X, Y, and Z directions. And if I hover on it, it will show a tooltip indicator. This one will move the 3D object on the Y axis. This one will rotate it around the Z axis, and this one will scale it around the Y axis. And the same goes for the other control points. You move, rotate and scale the 3D object around the X, Y and Z axis. And one important thing to mention is this middle control point. If you click on it and drag, you can scale the object uniformly. And that is very helpful if you are working with a 3D object and you want to scale it without messing its shape and proportion. You can also do the same thing as we did before and control your object from the Properties panel. If you click on this icon, you will see the Coordinates tab, and from here you can control position, rotation, and the scale of the object by changing the values of the X, Y, and Z axis if you want to be more accurate with the coordinates. Now up here on the top left corner, you have the second view window, and you can change the view by selecting one from the drop-down menu. This will come in handy when you want to see your object from multiple views at the same time. And if you want a bigger view of this window, you can click on this icon to swap between the main and the secondary view. Now back to the 3D panel, we can see that there is multiple elements in our scene. If we click on the infinite light, for example, the screen manipulator will appear, and now you can control the light direction by clicking and dragging on this handle. And you can control the light value from the properties panel. You can choose to show or hide the shadow, control the softness, the intensity, and so on. Now let's go to the actual 3D object and click on one of these materials. And if you look at the properties panel, we see the materials tab, and from here you can choose from a set of different materials. This is the front inflation material, and if I choose this blue one, you can see that it changes in the cube. Down here you can control things like shine and reflection, and each one of these has a material assigned to it. And you can control it from the properties panel. Don't worry if I didn't explain every detail about the materials tab right now, because we are gonna be working with it in a future video and you will be able to understand it better. And lastly, you can filter through the scene by clicking on these icons. For example, this will only show the materials on the scene. This will show the lights, and this will show the meshes. Okay, that's pretty much what you need to know about the 3D interface to get you started. Now in the next video, we will start by creating the 3D text.